What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. In today's episode, we are going to be putting an interior in our cheap Hoopty Sea Ray Ski Ray. Let's get to it. Alright, so getting into it, the first thing I really want to do is sand this thing, but because the whole thing needs sanded, I'm going to wait kind of to the next step to do that. What I want to do right now is I'm going to take this, I'm going to get rid of all these decals. So this is decal, that's all decal, all these decals, it all has to come off. I'm hoping I don't have to use heat, but given the age of these things, 1992, I'm going to imagine that I have to. So let's get into it. Alright, so this straight up sucks. I'm definitely going to have to use heat or something. I don't know, or sand the whole thing. I don't know what else to do, but it's just not coming off, so let me try to hit it with some heat. Alright, so we're definitely going to have to use heat. If you can see here, that T came off great. Of course, as I'm sitting here trying to heat this thing, the wind's blowing at me at like 38 miles an hour, and it's like 30 degrees, so everything's always got to work against me. But just to give you an idea kind of the way it's working, just kind of got to get the edge of it up like that. And then just carefully peel it. You can see it's coming off pretty clean. It's going to be a tedious job. I mean, obviously the whole length of this stupid boat. I mean, look at that one there. That one's going to be fun. So, yeah, let me get this done for you. Alright, that was some work, but I'll tell you what, it definitely changed the birthday to this boat for sure. It still looks like poo, no doubt, but it definitely changes the boat's look as far as age. Now, I got a little bit distracted because it's really long. It took like an hour and a half to do that. My arms are weak and I'm not happy, so I'm moving back to this right here. I'm going to take this off. I got a decal there, and then I got to do the other side. Hopefully, once all that's done, I can get to sanding. That sucked. I thought it was going to be easy. It started off real easy, and then I got totally crappy. But it's all off. It looks like it's on there, but it's not. It's smooth. So, yeah, let's move forward. Alright, so it's time to start wet sanding the red, and what we're kind of doing is we're basically taking this orbital sander right here. This is just a test. I'm not keeping using this. I'll probably use a DI or DA sander odds on air. But what we're going to try to do, and it's kind of tough to see because the camera always glamorizes colors, but you can see where the letter was and it's never been touched by the sun, and then you can see where it was. And essentially, that's it, not wet. And so what we want to do is we want to sand this thing down until both these sides here look exactly the same. And at that point, we'll be able to hit with a buffing pad, and it should be pretty kosher all the way down. So let's go ahead, let's get some sanding done, and we'll see how it works out. Okay, so getting into it, it's time to do some wet sanding and figure out how we can get this thing. And one of the worst parts about boats is that when you have a red or yellow color, which a lot of times they are, those are the worst ones that fade, and you really have to cut down a lot of material to get to an area that is not so faded like you see right there. Now, I can't tell, but it feels like maybe the red was below this. So I know this was cast inside a mold, so I don't know how thick it is, but we don't want to burn through it. I know it's not that thick. What I've done right here is I took a 120 on an orbital sander and got it to the point where I couldn't see the difference between this and this, and then I hit it with a 800, a 1000, a 1500, a 2000, and a 2000, and I got it to here. You probably can't see, obviously, on camera, but there is still some fine scratches I don't think I'm going to get out. So I got to run to Harbor Freight. I'm going to see if I can pick up a 320, a 400, a 600, and then maybe even an 800 again to see if I can use one of those instead of that 120 to burn through this thing and not have such deep scratches. And then I think of polishing, this thing ought to look pretty good, especially when it gets wet. I mean, you can already see reflection to the, to that through there, so it's doing something. So I think I'm on the right path. I'm going to go ahead and hit this. I won't take much of your time. I'll show you when it's all done, and I'll tell you what I did to do it. Alright guys, so after hours of work, I've gotten to this point. It doesn't look terrible, but at the right direction, it just doesn't really look good. I started off at a 320 grit sandpaper, all wet sanding, to a 400, then to an 800, to 1000, to 1500, and then 2000 at the very end right here. And then I polished it out with rubbing compound. And as you can see, there is definitely reflection. And again, I don't know if the camera's going to pick it up, but there's a lot of little, again, it's probably not going to pick it up. There's a lot of little imperfections in it that you can really see. And my concern is more so that once this rubbing compound, the wax of it wears off, it's going to look like this side again, which for me is impassable. So I think we're going to go a different direction at this point. We're going to go ahead and we're going to paint this thing. Okay guys, moving forward and understanding that the gel coat was just faded too deep in the material to get it back to life, it's time to paint it. And as you can see, everything's taped off. And yes, I'm painting out in the elements. I don't care. it is what it is. I'll have to do a little work afterwards to do some buffing and wet sanding and whatnot to make it perfect or as close to as possible. However, we're going to move forward. I'm going to go ahead and spray the primer coat right now, and then we're going to move on to the Performance Red from Summit Racing. All right, guys, and here's the primer coat. So far, it has turned out really, really well. I had to turn the pressure of the gun up because the primer is so thick, but that's kind of what I needed for this hole because it was pretty rough. So I think overall it turned out pretty damn good. It is drying right now, and then we're going to again spray the 2 base coats, which is a clear built-in and all-in-one urethane, which is Performance Red, and I'll put a link in the description below for all this stuff if you decide that you want to do the same thing on your boat. But it's time to move forward and start spraying. All right, everyone, check it out. There it is. There is our Performance Red. Overall, it turned out almost perfect. You know, when you got a large panel like this and you're spraying outside, you do get a little bit of texture to it. It's tough to see, but it's good. I can overall buff it up if I need to. And again, you'll see that the livery or the decals we're putting on it go all the way down the side here. So it's not going to be too big of a deal. Most of it is going to be covered. Well, I shouldn't say most of it, but quite a bit of it. And like I said, it overall turned out really good. I'm really happy with it. You can see the shine in it. It looks pretty nice. So if you guys are wondering why I used a urethane car paint on this boat and not a gel coat, there's actually a good reason for that. So you have 3 options, normally, maybe 4. The first one would be a urethane paint that I use, and the reason that works well is because the boat or the water line is right here. So the red really doesn't go underwater. So it doesn't see as much water where you would really want a gel coat to be. Gel coat is obviously known to fade, as you guys learned, and it is nothing but problems and really hard to work with. So that was kind of the reason I didn't do the gel coat, and I didn't think I'd be able to match it. It's really hard to make colors with the gel coat that you can buy. The other option is enamel. I don't really have a lot to say about enamel. Let's just say that it's like spray paint. Who wants that? The third option is polyurethane paint. I read a lot of information on this, and a lot of people say that it takes 2 to 3 days for it to cure, and at least a day and a half for it to not be tacky. Well, obviously we're shooting outside. I can't have that. And so that ultimately was the reason that we did urethane. And the price. So the price for a quart of this, which is all it took, was like $60 shipped. So, I mean, I can't complain about that at all. And I already had the supplies for the primer. If you don't, I'll put a link in the description below so you guys can get the primer as well. But all the tools you need will be linked below to do your spray just like this. Now it's time to get this thing unbundled, and we got a livery to put on this thing. All right, guys, so I'm still working on cleaning up the bottom of the boat. I'm going to tell you, this is like the most stressful, annoying thing I think I may have ever done. It's kind of the top of the list. I've got a lot of it off, as you can see, but there's areas where I haven't. And I've been pressure washing and scraping and sanding, and it's just non-stop headache. And if you look underneath here, so far it looks pretty good until you get all the way underneath there. You can see how much more there still is. And it's in my eyes. I got fiberglass all on my skin. I'm about over this right now. So I got some repair work to do on these edges. That's not really a big deal. That's nothing I really need to show. I'm not 100% certain what I'm going to do at the bottom yet. I might just leave it like this and get it cleaned up a little bit more in the front where it's visual, and then just leave the coating in the bottom. Or I might get a different bottom coating and coat over top of it white, so at least it's white and not blue. I don't really prefer that method, but at this point, this is just like too much. So I have to take a break for now. And so on that break, what I'm going to do is I'm going to wet sand this and buff this top out right here, and then we'll see what she looks like. Okay, so it came out pretty darn well. It's pretty shiny. It's not perfect. If I had to guess, I could probably use a little bit more of the 3000 grit wet sanding, but overall it's got a pretty darn good shine to it. While not being perfect, it's acceptable to me. This is one of those things where you'd almost rather pay somebody else to do it that's much better at it, but then again, what kind of example am I setting you guys if I'm paying somebody else to do it? So right now you can see there's a bunch of junk all over it. I got to pressure wash all this rubbing compound that was flung everywhere off, and then we're going to go ahead and move forward. Okay, finally the boat sanding is done. I've got it to about 95% of anything visible you cannot see, so the bottom of it looks really good. It's time to move forward and put on the decals. And there you have it. What do you guys think? I think it's pretty cool looking. It's different. I went with kind of a 70s retro letter on the starting for the base for Ski Ray, which is kind of contradicting, being that we're trying to make it look newer, but I still think that writing or that particular font is actually a pretty cool looking font, and I loved the really dark gray to go with the interior with a little bit of spice in the fluorescent yellow. You know I love that color, and yeah, I really like it. So it's time to move forward. The outside is basically done at this point. Now it's time to move forward to the interior. We've got to give it another cleaning since it's been sitting. It's time to put the interior in. All right, so I went ahead and rinsed out the inside again. I figured you already seen that once. You guys don't probably want to see that again. So we're moving forward. The very first thing we're doing for the interior is still kind of exterior. We are going to go ahead and put our flooring on the back deck, or the swim deck. And so you know what you saw earlier, I already peeled everything off and got it all cleaned up. So now it's time for me to basically take a piece of paper and trace out this whole thing so we can transfer it over to our turf and get that stuff put on. All right, so we got everything transferred to paper, then over to our mat, cut out, and here you can see it was test fitted, and overall the fitment is pretty darn good. I cannot complain. Those of you that may have seen the Sea-Doo Challenger video, you'll notice that we used a contact cement from Weldwood. Not the one I typically use. It's a little bit more liquidy. I like the gel version, but again, my local Home Depot and Lowe's did not carry that, so we're gonna use the leftovers of what we already have, a brush. We're gonna apply it on the fiberglass side as well as the foam side, and then let it sit for about 5 minutes, and then we are going to basically install this by putting it down and working from the inside out. You'll see I have it marked at dead center here, so I can't screw it up. Let's see how it turns out. All right, and guys, it came out about as perfect as you would expect. Overall, I'm very pleased with the fitment and how well it looks. This particular back swim deck only cost $10 to cover and get the flooring on here, so I can't complain. This particular unit came from Harbor Freight. It's 2x6. There's a lot of other places that sell this stuff. It's usually 4x8. In this particular instance, we were working with the inside and outside. A lot of it's 2-foot strips, so I bought the 2-foot-by-6 footers and a couple 4x8s just in case we needed it. But overall, very, very pleased with this. It's time to move forward. We got to get the inside flooring done, so I got to get the base of the main captain's chair up there out, and then we'll go ahead and wipe everything down since I just rinsed it out, and I'm gonna start drying things out, and then we should be able to mark everything out to get this put in there. Okay, and so for now we're gonna start pulling out the rest of the interior. Now, if I sound funny, the reason why is I just got back from the dentist and half my face is numb. I feel like I got punched like Mike Tyson, so if I have a slur or sound weird, that's probably the reason why. That said, what we're going to do right now is take out this engine cover, and you guys are probably thinking, well, where's the engine? I know you guys saw the engine put in. The reason I'm doing that is I want to keep the engine and everything separate from the interior videos. So technically speaking, the engine isn't in right now, but for all you guys know it is, and I'm pulling out the rest of this interior. What I want to do now, again, is pull out this doghouse here, then we'll start pulling off all these panels right here, and then I have to make a full custom rear section, full frame and everything. I was going to go basic and do just a simple bench, but I might not do that. I might make it full custom. We'll see as that goes, but for now I got to pull everything off. And then the steering wheel. If you look at the steering wheel, it doesn't turn real great. So I got a new steering wheel. I don't want to put it on yet because I don't want to bust it trying to yank on it to break it free. We may have to replace the cable. Not a big deal. If we do, we do. We'll get to that. So I'll walk you through the rest of that, but for now I'm going to start pulling all these panels out. It's pretty simple. It's just bolts that go through here and screws on the back side. I'll pull all of it out. We'll take a look at it. We'll give an idea of what we have to do. We'll talk about the colors we're going to use, and then, yeah, let's do it. And to give you guys a look back here, this is one of the side sails, and you can see how the bolts come through. Basically, the bolts are put through the wood before it's upholstered, so the bolts are already there, and you can see it's just nothing at the end of it there. And you see the connectors for our nav lights, or the rear light, whatever that thing is called. And a couple speakers and whatnot else, a light, and yeah, that's it. So I'm gonna go ahead and pull all these out. You'll see what it looks like when it's out. All right, and so we got the first sail off, and in all fairness, I don't know if it's called a sail. That's just what I'm calling it. You'll see it right here. A couple things to point out. For one, these things are going. I don't understand the point of them, because a grown adult would have to be on their knees to grab a hold of those, and I don't see why a kid would be like walking around while you're jumping waves or pulling people. Seems kind of strange. So those are going to go only because they're pointless and they look stupid. Like maybe back in the day, people were like, "Oh shit, they got the grab bars," but I don't think anybody's doing that anymore. So those are going to go. The other thing, this here. Now I know sometimes controls will have like a kill switch on them. So I guess maybe that's what it is. It's just in a really odd position behind like the seat almost, or it's kind of being blocked, and you can't really. It's weird. So yeah, there's that. I don't know if that'll go back in or not. I guess it's a secondary safety. If so, we'll put like a real kill switch because, well, that's stupid. And then, of course, the speakers, I can't tell. I could probably pull up the girls and see if they're any better. I eventually will to get them out, but those will probably be replaced as well. So obviously, they don't match either. One's a Power Acoustic and one's a Pioneer, and probably neither one of those are Marine speakers. So there's the sail one. Time to move on. Get off number 2. And I don't know why I haven't taken this out of my way yet. I just, for some reason, haven't. So let's move forward. And making our way around the boat, we're almost done. This is the last we gotta get out. Just pulled this out. You're gonna see that there's bolts all the way down these sides and these holes here. There's bolts everywhere. You don't have to take out any of them. The only thing you have to do, just connect your rear strut right here, just like you would on the back of your hatch. Just pry this little piece right here out, and it'll pop off. And all you're gonna do is lift this thing right out of the tracks, and you're up, and you're out. And moving forward, that's all out. Now, it was a bit of a pain in the butt. I ended up having to rip some of these bolts out, and the reason why, they were spinning because, as you can see, the wood is rotten. Now, we won't have to worry about that because we're not using wood. We're going to be using PVC plastic. That'll never happen again, as far as I'm concerned. But as you can see, we definitely need to do a second cleaning. Right now, it's just filthy. This is all the stuff we couldn't get to before. And there's even filth down there that'll run back to the engine bay as well that we couldn't ever pressure wash in the first place, as well as some kind of little trapdoor thing right there. Don't know what that is. But we're going to get all the stuff cleaned out, and then we're going to start working on this interior. Alright guys, so it's time to start getting into this interior. Now that we've got everything ripped out, I'm going to go ahead and start stripping the interior down to go ahead and move forward to get these things reupholstered. The first thing I want to do is piece by piece and kind of see how these things come apart. What I'll be doing is basically taking like a sail like this. This will be our first test bench. And I'm going to try to pull out most of these staples. If they get annoying, I'll just end up cutting it along a razor blade right here and stapling over top of it. Oftentimes there's so many that it's like impossible to get to and it's just not worth doing. But because the wood is good and I'm not re-wooding it basically, I'm going to keep this. So let me see what I can get off right now, and then I'll show you what colors we're using and what we're going to go forward with. And so very simply, with everything else removed as far as bars and speakers and whatnot, simply going to take a staple remover just like so, and we're going to basically get it down underneath the staple like you see right there, and it pulls right off. This part's really easy, but the part that's more important I want to show you is before I go cut everything apart, I put labels on here, and you'll see it says 1A, 1A, 1B, 1B, and the reason I do that is this is to line up the new fabric when we go ahead and put it together. It'd be part number 1, area A, part number 1, area B. Now this is going to change a little bit. Probably I'll put the red farther forward, and again I'll get into the colors in a minute, but this section will be farther forward because that'll be a smaller area of white that I have to cut out. The thin strips are easy, they don't use much vinyl. So that's all part of design and making use of your vinyl in this layout. But more importantly, we won't do any of this until we have everything cut out, and when we have all the pieces together, then we can really kind of Tetris all the pieces into that 54-inch roll of vinyl and get the most out of it. So I'm going to go ahead and take this apart now. I'm going to do the same to all the others, and then we'll start looking at the colors and what we're going to do with it. Alright, so now I want to show you option B. If you guys don't have the time to sit here and peel all these staples out, there is another easier way to do it. A lot of times when the wood is real dry, it is hard to get the staples out, so an easier method to do that is simply take a razor blade and cut along your back edge all the way along here. And just keep in mind that after we cut all this, when we lay this on our new vinyl, to put new vinyl down, we need to add a 1/2 inch for that fold that we're cutting off right now, all the way around the edge of this. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. This wood is actually soft. I'm just going to show you the idea, because it's going to be a lot faster for me to get it apart. I don't really care. And I'll show you exactly how we lay it out afterwards. Alright, so after you have your fascia cut and peeled off, all you gotta do is grab some pliers like this so you're not poking yourself, and pull all the way up and around. Really, really simple and easy. I'll have this done in about 30 seconds. Okay, and so moving forward, I am not going to make you watch me tear the rest of these pieces apart because this is not an upholstery channel. However, let's talk about the colors that I have chose. Now, the roll of vinyl that you see right here is from marinevinylfabric.com. I've not used this company before, but so far the materials do seem to be quality. I do like that. Let's get into the color. So, the very first color is our primary color is going to be white. Now, you probably expected that. I actually looked at switching it into red, a couple different colors. It just didn't look right as a primary color because of the amount of white on the boat already. So I decided to stick with white. Our secondary main color is going to be, if you can see this here, red carbon fiber. It's a solid bright red. It looks really, really good. It's going to match the boat. Really like the color. Our third and final accessory color so far, I don't think I put any other colors in, is supposed to be a dark gray carbon vinyl. Now this is more like a dark silver vinyl, I would say, but still it's going to look pretty good, I think. I was hoping for it to be a little bit more graphite-y, but that's okay. It still should look good with the flooring that we have chosen, which is going to be like a dark gray kind of turf flooring that we've used in other boats before. It's a budget-friendly turf, and I think it'll look good with all these colors mixed in. So right now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and rip the rest of this stuff apart. No need to put this on video. I'll get it all tore apart and I'll show you exactly how I lay out all the vinyl before I cut everything, and I'll show you exactly what I do when we sew it together. Alright, so we got everything cut out and sewn like we need to do. Now it's time to apply some foam around the face of the board, and we're going to go ahead and staple on all the vinyl to the actual boards. And so here is the foam that we're going to be using. You could buy this at like Jo-Ann Fabrics, or this one particularly happened to come from Walmart. It's a 1/2 inch thick. I would have preferred if it was quarter inch thick. However, I couldn't find anybody with quarter inch thick stuff, so we're gonna just run with half inch. That is fine. But again, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna flip this thing over right here. I'm gonna lay this underneath it. I'm gonna trace an outline just like the material that we're putting over top of it, probably about a half inch bigger all the way around it, so it gets around the edges, which is the most important part. And then we're gonna wrap it, and we got a brand new staple gun to put everything together. All right, so I got the side sails done now. One thing I will give you guys a word of advice. I gave myself like a half to 3/4 inch extra around the edge to wrap and staple, and even that really wasn't enough with this half-inch foam. It was really tight in areas. And what happens when you do that, if you notice this edge here, right here, it doesn't look bad, but it's kind of like rippled, and that's because of areas I had to pull extra tight. So it didn't give that smooth, seamless finish, and I wish I had just given that extra 1/4 inch, and I would have had to worry about that. That's really the only area that's doing it. It's not that bad. But overall, I think it turned out pretty nice. I will say it definitely looks a lot better with this color scheme than it did that pink and burgundy and blue or whatever it was. If you'll notice here too, the direction of the carbon fiber is all continuous from color to color, so it worked out pretty nice. It's time to move forward now. We've got some other panels to recover and try to get this interior done. All right, so we're moving up to the passenger side front viewing seat. This is actually the side of it. As you can see, the wood is completely rotted out. As I told you, I'm not going to use wood because it's kind of senseless. For the most part, I'll use plastic, as you see here. So you'll see I have revamped it and getting ready to cut it out. This is going to be the back side, the frame of the seat. I'm going to go ahead and cut this out now. We got some sewing to do, and I'll show you what this side panel looks like when it's all done. All right, and our side pad, now it's not perfect. There are a couple imperfections. A little bit of a bump here. And somehow I screwed up and didn't make the carbon fiber go the same way on these two colors. Don't know how I managed that. But overall, it turned out pretty good. Most all this on the side here is covered. Don't care that much. Good enough. Now it's time to make a bottom, and that's going to be tough because they didn't come with one. All right, so as I shared with you guys, I do not have a passenger bottom for the viewing seat at all whatsoever. And so what I've done is I went ahead and took some plastic and cut it out to the shape that we need. I do have to drill a couple holes in there for drainage for when this high-density foam 5-inch thick pad here decides to build up moisture, it can drain down into the battery cavity. So I'm going to go ahead and drill those holes, get that thing shaped, and then we're going to have to wrap it with some vinyl to make it look halfway decent. And, well, we should be good after that. All right, so our lower is fully built now. It's a little loose, not excited about that, but you know what? At the end of the day, a lot of time the sun, within just a couple weeks of sitting out, will shrink that and make it fit a little bit better, so hopefully that will be the case here. I went ahead and put a couple straps, some attaching straps that attach to simple buttons. And the reason for that is I don't want to go down the highway and this thing come flying out, so it's good to have those. They're easy to make, easy to attach, and I had the machine to go ahead and snap the buttons to it, so it worked out. It's time to move forward. Okay, it's time to move forward to the big boy. This one's going to be a pain in the ass, just FYI. It's huge. I don't know how I'm going to be able to get it fit as tight as it is like that. I'm really going to have to try. Yeah, so what I got to do is I got to pull off the cup holder back there, the handlebar right here, and then all this hand grip, whatever you want to call it, and all this gray stuff along the bottom. Then I'm going to go ahead and cut the sections out with the razor blade. I'm going to try to get as close as I can. I can't guarantee how great it's going to be. All I can do is try. If it wasn't faded and sunburnt or burnt looking right there, I would keep this white if I could get it clean, and I'd just replace this, to be honest with you. I haven't tried yet. If I'm lucky enough to do that, and this is the only bad part of the white, I'll live with that. I'll patch that. But I don't know that's going to come clean, so I'm going to try it real quick just to see what happens, and then assuming it won't, I'm going to cut this thing apart. All right, so here's what we're working with. Kind of some bad news. I had a couple areas on the bottom edges that were peeling, and I was assuming that somehow or another they stapled it to the fiberglass, which I knew it would be hard, but that's not what they did. They stapled it to wood, as you can see right here, and that wood is starting to get rotten in areas. What it feels like, if I press in here, it's about 1 inch wide and about maybe 3/8 inches thick. And for them to wrap it around this thing means they'd have had to do some kind of crazy thing where they heat it up with steam or something. I don't know what they did, but I have a feeling I can't replicate that because that's above and beyond me. So I thought about just leaving the white and then doing a red and the black, or I'm sorry, red and the dark gray strip and bring it over top of this one. It's really probably not going to look terrible, but it's not going to fix the fact that I got this issue here and I can't fix it because I can't restaple it into nothing. So I'm going to have some balls and I'm going to cut this thing apart. I don't think I have a choice. I think I'm kind of stuck with having to do that. It's not going to be fun. There is foam underneath it too, so yeah. So that's going to be interesting. But yeah, I'm going to cut it apart right now, and I guess we're just going to see what happens. All right, so cover's off. Came off fairly easy. I had to take about 10,000 staples butt to butt all the way around this thing. What a hassle. The good news is that the foam actually stayed where it's supposed to be. I'm really happy about that. And looking at the actual wood, it looks like it's almost like a ruler, but a little bit thicker, about 3/8 inch thick, and it's fiberglassed into the fiberglass shell here, which is not good. But the one good thing that I see is the only areas that are rotten are on the corners. I'd imagine that's probably because the moisture they had to put in that wood to get that wood to bend. My thought right now is I'm going to make it a little bit longer, and I'm going to try to just go ahead and glue it all the way down, maybe an inch past this entire thing. I can still throw some staples on all the straight edges. It's just the corners are going to be affected by the glue, and so the glue should help hold that down. And then obviously we have a rocker at the bottom of this thing that's going to cover all this. I never really noticed this part was already missing on it. I do have it in the boat though, fortunately, to figure out kind of how that goes on. But there used to be two, and this should be actually the backside, but there used to be two hinges back here, so I'm imagining I'll have to make some of those too, and that's okay. Right now, I got my work cut out for me on that thing, so I'm going to see how flat I can get that, and I'm going to try my best. Again, I'm not an upholsterer, but we'll find out what I can do. And okay, it's done. Well, it's not done, but it's sewn. It's over top of it. Overall, it turned out pretty good. I was really thinking it was going to be super bad. And keep in mind right now, it's not stretched or nothing. It needs to be pulled down. You'll start seeing these edges tighten up. Not bad. Plus, we do have the cup holders that'll help pull these areas down in like this. Overall, it turned out pretty darn nice. Now, I got to get this thing stapled on and installed. I'm going to do that, but I do have one small area you can see right here to fix. It's a little bit gapped. I got to do something with that. Probably re-sew it. But overall, it turned out pretty good. It's better looking than the original for sure. Maybe not better fitting, but better looking. So now it's time to move forward and get this thing finished up. And so there is our doghouse all complete. Again, it has a little bit of wrinkle, but a lot of times when you put this in the sun, any of the stress points that are pulling on the vinyl will be basically stretched out and somewhat limited when it hits the sun. So I could put a heat gun on it, but I really don't want to take a chance of melting it and messing it up. So we're just going to roll with it the way it is. I'm happy with it. It's time to move forward. All right, so it's time to move forward and start working on the back seat. Now, I don't have the back seat. Well, that's not true. I do have it. I have this, and that little bit of foam right there. In fact, when you guys saw me clean out the boat, this was all in the back of it, and I decided to pitch it into the fire pit, which is why it's dirty as it is. Nonetheless, though, I did some research. I was going to just build a regular bench back seat, and then I realized that there wasn't going to be enough room between that and the doghouse. So I started looking at options like bass boat seats, which I found the exact red carbon fiber white in the whole nine to match, but they're only 17.5 inches wide. And where that became a problem was there was going to be some gaps. It wasn't going to look right. It just kind of looked not right. So I decided to go ahead and redo this. I got some wood in the back. I need to basically take all this and measure it out and get some kind of arch going to it because that's the back corners of the boat like that. So we got to make all that, and obviously I have to do some sewing, and I have to do some magic as far as foam stretching or coming up with more. So let me start cutting all that stuff out, and then I'll show you what it looks like when it's all done. Alright guys, so there you have it. There are the rear uppers. Nothing really major to this. Pretty much just outlining everything and then bolting it together with some nails. Pretty straightforward. If you guys are wondering how to curve the wood, it's not too hard. Being that's only 1/4 inch like Luan, all you really have to do is soak the wood in hot steaming water for about 10-15 minutes. It's not perfect. You'll see it's got a little bit of gapping, but overall it's covered. It's going to work. So it's time to go fit these things in the boat, and then I got to get them covered. And so there's our rear uppers. I'm happy with them, but it's time to move on to lowers. The lowers are going to be a little bit tougher because we don't have a frame. Initially, the original frame kind of is like this S-shaped thing or something like that. That's fiberglass that goes like that. And, well, they didn't come with them. And I don't really want to buy those because they're like $200 a piece. So we're going to try to make something out of some aluminum tubing here. We'll have to do a little bit of welding. But I'm going to figure out exactly what I got to do as far as dimensions and everything to make sure that it looks halfway decent. Okay, and so here is our rear framing. Overall, it came out okay. The welds look like total crap. I've seen better welds from China, but it is what it is. Then things are stout. I can literally jump on them, and they don't move an inch, so that's a very good thing. Right now, what we got to do is I got to go ahead and put some riv nuts into the fiberglass, so these things have something to bolt to, and then we're going to start working on getting the actual pads down in the back. Okay, and to give you guys an update, I typically work from the back corners and I work my way forward. I get the front or the back corner put in first, and then I work about a 1.5 by 2 foot section this way. And the reason I do that, it only takes a couple minutes for this stuff to dry, but it also takes a couple minutes for each panel to put it on. So once you're done with, the pad side and the panel side, like I am right now, you kind of got to act pretty quick and get this stuff down. Also, you want to make sure the wind doesn't blow it because once it's down, it's down. Okay, so we got our first one down. So far, so good. What you'll notice is there is some unequal lengths along the edging here. That'll actually be straightened out in the very end. We'll use long straight edges and bring the racer down and get all those lined up perfectly. but you'll see it ended right here. And from here on forward, what's going to happen is we're going to lay out another one after I take that out, and then we simply got the other side right there. Should go pretty quick and we'll be all done. Alright guys, so we got the flooring done, and there's a couple things I want to point out. I do still have to clean up the areas that are raw fiberglass. You can see there's a little bit of overhang of glue. That's actually pretty easy to clean up with acetone. You just want to be careful that you don't get the acetone on the foam because it will eat apart the foam. Very important. Moving forward, there is something I want to point out. If you guys decide to do the same thing, something that really frustrates me, you can really see it well on the camera. Look at the difference between the left and the right pad. It's different. And so I didn't realize this at first when I bought a bunch of these from Harbor Freight. They are very inconsistent. Let me get up close to show you exactly what I mean. So if you look at this, you can see how pronounced the indentations are inside these stamps, where it's not as much over here. You can see this is much darker than this. You can't tell when it's wrapped up in a shiny bag, but it's definitely a huge difference. I went to get more at Harbor Freight, and they didn't have more of the dark that I already applied, so I kind of got screwed on that. I just had to, I guess, deal with it, which I'm not happy about. But at this point, there's really nothing I can do because it seems like they're all inconsistent. One other thing I want to point out too is when you go into the store to look at it, you're going to notice that some of the rolls are thicker than others. Some of the material is actually thicker, and you can kind of see that here too, and that's also an annoyance. And sometimes not all the lengths aren't exactly the same. Some are 2 inches shorter, 2 inches longer, so keep that in mind. I don't know that I would use this stuff from Harbor Freight again. The other stuff that had rolls of didn't have enough rolls of, and I used to get that at Walmart and different places like that, but they're not selling it now, so I was kind of forced to have to use this. Anyhow, it's all done. It's time to move forward. We got plenty more to do here on the interior. Okay, so moving forward, it's time to put in our side sails. In all fairness, they're technically speaking probably not called side sails. I just say that because I made it up, and well, that makes sense because I made it up, duh. But before I throw these things on, I got a couple things I got to do. First of all, these things need speakers in them. As you can see, there used to be. So I bought some speakers. No, they're not high-end speakers. I just like the fact that they match the color of the boat. Now, I'm not putting a big crazy tower or anything on this because it's not a wakeboard boat. For those of you saying it's not a wakeboard boat, no, it's a ski boat. And even though it's a tournament ski boat, there are differences between a wakeboard boat and ski boat. Like some things, like weight ballast and things for the newer style riding that they use. I don't know all the differences. I don't really know much about wakeboarding or skiing. I just know that I don't care and I'm not using anything high-end. These will be good enough to hear the music through the wind as it blows in our hair. So moving forward, I'm going to cut those out, get those installed. We also have to have a safety switch installed, which used to be right there. It's going to be there again. So let me get all that done and I'll show you how it looks like when they're bolted on. Alright, so they turned out pretty darn nice, if I'm being honest. We're getting into some backseat fitment because we have rear speakers that have to go underneath there. So I won't get into that yet. We'll move into that next. But overall, they turned out really nice. There is one thing that I don't like, and you'll see it right there. You see how that's not lined up? I had this thing pushed all the way back, too. And it, you know, I didn't notice this. It must have been when Sea Ray made this. They just had the hole too big and they covered it up with foam. I didn't notice when I peeled everything apart. Not real excited about that. I just assumed it was made to fit around. Because I couldn't move the drill holes or anything to make it really any better without really nothing else fitting correctly, I'm just going to have to deal with that. But I do like to point out the flaws that I run into. A lot of YouTubers won't do that. The reason I do that is because this might help you from having that same mistake if you're doing the same build. So hopefully that helps somebody when they're doing this. Definitely try to line that thing up and make sure to see how it fits when it's down to the bare wood. Let's go ahead and move forward. And so moving forward, I'm test fitting the back seats, and the reason for that is exactly that word, test fitting. Again, I made this whole entire back setup with nothing. So it was just kind of a guess off of some of the older ideas and pictures that I was able to look at. And if you'll notice right here, they're very edges. I got to cut our sails down about a ½ inch. They're a little bit too long to get these backside pieces to fit in. And then I got to figure out where I'm going to drill and mount our rear frames, as you see right here. But more importantly, it's kind of getting ahead of things. I actually have to put the other two 6x9s in the side panels that go back here. And before I could do that, I had to make sure that everything else here lines up. So I'm going to move forward right now. I'm going to get the 6x9s down there, and then we'll get these things cut down so they fit. All right, back seats are complete. It's time to move forward. Moving on to the front seats, and there's that front seat. One more to go. All right, and here is our captain's chair. I think it looks fantastic. Obviously, I didn't sew that, but I was really lucky to find one with a dark gray carbon vinyl and the white to match everything else on the boat. Now, it's time to move forward. We got one more big piece of interior that's got to go in here, and that is the doghouse that covers the engine that you see right here. Unfortunately, like many of the parts, it did not come with the hinges that hold it on to this back panel right here, so I need to run to the store and grab some of those. I'm going to go get those. Then we'll get this thing installed, and that should be completing most of our interior with the exception of a serious cleaning that it needs on, well, pretty much everything else because it needs solvents because the pressure washer clearly didn't do its job. So, moving forward, let me go grab those hinges. I'll be right back. We'll get that thing put in. Alright, and so here are the hinges that we ordered off Amazon. I'm going to go ahead and get those put on right now. It's very important when you line these things up that you take into effect exactly how it's going to lay and how it's going to open. If not, you can end up binding against each other. So if you're not completely flat against you this way, if it's kind of angling around and you mount them this way, it won't open. So it's very important to make sure you're on a flat surface and these are aligned. Okay, so there's our hinges installed, and we will go ahead and test opening this thing. Nice and smooth. Sits back on its own. Functions perfectly. That's what we needed. Time to move forward. Alright guys, so at the very end of this, I want to do a little disclaimer on everything that happened. As you see, that build probably took place right just before winter, last winter. It's now summer, the following summer. What had happened is I had participated in a custom PC building contest, and I lost a lot of the information based on the servers and the hard drives that were built into that system, which included a lot of our videos. So I'm having to part and piece together some of the videos that we have, including this one. Now, I got a pretty cool PC out of the build. I'll put a picture right up here. It was a Beetlejuice theme. I thought it turned out pretty cool, but nonetheless, that was pretty much what happened with the end of this build. Basically, I brought this thing on the water, and to give you a rundown, it's not a speedboat. It ran pretty darn nice. For about every 10,000 about every 1,000 RPMs, you got about 10 miles per hour. So this thing ran about 30 at 30 or at 3,000 RPMs, about 40 at 4,000 RPMs. And I never brought it past about 45, 46 miles per hour, which was right around in that 4,500 RPM range. Ran really nice. So for anybody that tells you guys can't put a truck engine in a boat, they're full of it. This thing runs absolutely fantastic. With that said, I'm going to end up this video with hopefully some of the gallery files that I had of the pictures when this thing was all said and done. I hope you guys enjoyed the content. I know I talked a lot on this one. Wasn't really my go-to. Normally I cut a lot of that out, but because we lost so much footage, I didn't really have a whole lot of choice if I wanted any content to be revived in it. So, hope you guys appreciate that. And again, thank you for subscribing. If you haven't already, definitely do so. And if you like the video, throw that thumbs up, and I'll see you guys in the next one.